Hey there, Shooby-Doodlers, how are you doing? I have just been printing out the galley proofs of my book called Generation Moon. I've spent the last 3 days working through the text on inDesign, laying the text out across the book, ready to place the illustrations. And if you're laying out a normal novel, then you can kind of spread the whole book out across the pages you want, and all the text will flow, and that's lovely. But if you're doing an illustrated novel, then you have to go through the whole thing, finding out where do I want to put the illustrations, and reading the whole thing, thinking I'm going to put that there. And then actually sometimes I think, well, I can have that at the bottom of the page, but I need an extra little bit of space, so I might have to go back and rewrite the paragraph before, just to make it that little bit shorter, so that I can get that last line up into the line before, just to add that extra little bit of space. And quite often, just to make the page look prettier, on the bottom right hand page, the paragraph goes over the other page with just one word on it. So I'll go back to the previous page and edit that paragraph and have a rethink about it and see if I can just take a word out so that I can bring that word over from the previous page, just to make the thing look more pretty. It's quite a lot of brain work. You're thinking about lots of things, and also reading through the story again is constantly another chance to edit and think, is that right? Is that right? I haven't actually read it for 3 weeks at least, so it's really good to come back to it fresh, having kind of just forgotten the story really, and just been concentrating on other parts like the characters and illustrations and the cover. And it's really good when you come back to it fresh, and you can see that doesn't make sense, and then you read it as a reader rather than as the person that wrote it. And it's whenever it comes to a book, it's not about you as the author, it's about the reader, and you have to keep constantly thinking about, does this make sense? Is this really getting across what I want to say to the reader? Can I write it better? Can I explain it better? Can I make it shorter? Am I waffling here? And you have to ask yourself all those kinds of questions. I was quite surprised as I got towards the end of the book. It's actually quite emotional, and I could feel myself kind of getting all emotional, as I remember I did when I was writing it. So that's quite a good thing. I'm not sure if it's going to leave people kind of depressed or with a desperate hunger to know what happens in the next book in the trilogy. And that's another thing that I have to go through every day. This is quite a big project to do all on my own. So 3 books, which I'm going, and I've got the marketing, I've got the whole crowdfunding Kickstarter program I'm going to be planning out. Well, I have already started planning out a long time before. It's going to take at least a year, I should think, and spreading it out over the year, and keeping the pace and the interest and the excitement going is quite difficult, especially when sometimes I sit down and think, oh, why did I ever start this? Maybe I should just give up and tell everybody, no, I can't do this. And then, 2 minutes later, keep going. And honestly, if anybody came to me and said, I'm thinking of doing a self-publishing project, I'd say have a really good long think. It is a lot of work, and it's kind of constantly in your brain, and you have to be prepared to really go through with that. So let me show you what I've been doing with the covers. So these are the galleys that I've just printed out, and galleys are just a kind of, how it's all set out. The word galley goes back to the old letterpress days, where you actually kind of had a physical galley which you kind of put everything into. And this is that illustration that I did of T. Bryn, which is the International Space School. That's the old house with these big sort of long modern glass wings. That's the dormitory area, and they got observatories and fabrication labs and all sorts of stuff going on there. And so it just sort of, it's lots and lots of pages, leaving spaces every now and then to do illustrations. This was my very first kind of thing that I threw together, really to give me a feeling for the project, really, as a potential book cover. First Kid on the Moon was originally my sort of first idea of the title for it, but things have changed, and it was just going to be one book at the time, and now it is a trilogy. because it was just going to be a very fat book, which is too much for the age group that I want. It's the middle grade, which is like 8 to 12-year-olds, and a big fat book is kind of too much for them. And I woke up one morning just thinking, this story fits perfectly into 3 big sections. And if I did it one big book, I would break it up into those sections. So you can see from here, he's got a very big forehead, so I've sort of shrunk his forehead a bit, and just doing lots and lots of these drawings to try and get these two together. And that's basically, it's just lots and lots of sort of tracing through and just shifting, changing the eyes. This is Chen Xing. She's Chinese, CJ. Everyone calls her CJ. She is Chinese, and it's getting the eyes right. I don't want to have kind of stereotypical Chinese eyes. And then getting him right as well. And having drawn them from the front, it's learning to draw them at a 3/4 angle is not easy. And then I kind of worked out how to draw the eyes from the front, but not from that 3/4 angle. So it's just constantly working my way through it. And this was the first kind of rough thing I did, just to kind of it's just to put a placer onto images on Photoshop and things. And then I wanted to keep working at it and painting on different papers. This is done with a pencil in the background. Didn't feel right. Something's just not right with that one. I couldn't tell you. I think his forehead again is too big. The eyes just don't look right there. It's just too much. And again, so I tried doing a very sort of fine version of it with a thinner pen. Not happy with that. Try another version. No, not happy with that. Didn't even bother to paint it. Didn't bother to paint that one. I can't think why not. I think her eyes, I think both their eyes are just not quite there. Although I quite like the rest of it. That's completely wrong. I just kind of went the other way. And again, this is on thick watercolour paper. And this again is on thick watercolour paper. She's looking the wrong direction. That's not a problem because I can always fix that on Photoshop and just sort of shift those eyeballs across. And in the end, I decided maybe the problem is I'm using watercolour paper. I'm using this kind of thick, expensive watercolour paper. I thought maybe that's making me be too precious. And quite often I use this cartridge paper. I don't know. We call it cartridge paper here in the UK. I think sometimes it's called Bristol paper in the States. And this isn't terribly thick. It's the kind of stuff you just, draw on. This is what I would do the black and white inside illustrations on. I thought, well, just use that paper too. And suddenly didn't feel quite so precious, and it just came out. I was much, much happier with that one, and that's the one I'm going with. So I'd planned that these two would be on the front cover, and I was imagining something like this. And I don't know, something was telling me, no, it's not right. And then I thought, oh no, let's do something different. And you may remember I put something like this up, A and B, onto a poll on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, to say, which do you prefer? And it was interesting. People saying, oh, I much prefer that one, but they feel children will prefer that one. And this is a problem with marketing for children, is doing children's books. It's the adults you're quite often talking to and who are choosing. And the adults are sort of going, oh, I can't like that. But the kids are going, oh, yeah, I like that. And you've got this really weird thing. It's the adults have got the power to buy the book and give it to the children. And the children have got the power to go, oh, I really like that, and nag their parents, can you get me that? But you've got to somehow get it in front of the children in the first place. And that involves the parents who are the gatekeepers. It's tricky. So I thought I needed something more exciting. So here's some, again, these pencil sketches are all just adjusting and just fine-tuning. And I think, which one did I do? I think I did that one first, which is a little bit looser. And then I did that one, which is a little bit tighter, not too tight, and trying to get it to be more orange as well. So they're actually flying in a zero-G aeroplane. And they quite often have that kind of plastic netting up in there to sort of cut off one part of the cabin from another, and you can sort of fly into it and you're not going to hurt yourself. And I thought that would be quite a fun kind of thing in the background. And I thought the text, I went through lots of typefaces. I thought this was quite modern, and I wanted to have a sort of a rounded kind of text, and I thought have a bit of light coming up from it, like it's night time or something. It's quite busy, isn't it? And in the end, I thought, no, let's just keep this nice and clean. Have the moon in the background, so we got that kind of focus on the moon. Yeah, they're not flying through the sky, but it's kind of poetic license, isn't it? And the Generation Moon in a kind of a pale, moony kind of colour. I can make that moon that kind of colour, but I didn't want to because it would kind of show up too much. I wanted it to really fade into the background. Like sometimes you wake up in the morning and you look up in the sky, oh look, there's the moon, and it's that sort of very pale, sort of ghostly white thing up in the daylight sky. So that's where I am at the moment, but these two I think are going to end up on the back of the book. I had a really interesting conversation in the comments with P. Rower, who says they are a behaviouralist, and actually sort of showed it to children and adults, and said that amongst all the children, the girls tended to like this one and the boys tended to like that one, and including their grown-up cousin boys who spent all their time on the PlayStations and obviously prefer the adventurous look. And I'm not surprised by that. And I know it's horribly sexist to say so, but girls quite often prefer the relationships, whereas boys quite often prefer the adventure. That doesn't mean that girls don't like the adventure. I've got a girl in there and she's a very adventurous girl, extremely adventurous girl. Some kids, and maybe the bias is towards the girls, will look at this and see this is much more of a kind of a romance maybe, or a relationship thing going on. And here boys will go, yeah, he's flying through space, that's, whoa, yeah. And we'll kind of relate that to PlayStation games and things. Not that girls don't play PlayStation games, I know. As I say, I've got a very adventurous girl in this story. And they are, in fact, she is maybe more adventurous than he is. But when it comes to the cover, it's the adventurous kids that I am aiming it at. And so this is the cover that I want to portray. And then anybody looking on the back will go, oh, I see, and maybe think, oh, that's nice. That's a nice kind of relationship kind of thing. But then the adventurous ones might go, hey, cool flight jacket. Yeah, right. And all the badges, cool. And sort of want a bit of that. So covers, they are so difficult, aren't they? And I also have to be thinking of the next two books because they need to kind of all fit together as a trilogy. This is one of my other books. So I don't know if you can see here. Can you see there? This part here is shiny. So this is called spot varnish. So this is nice and flat in the background, and then certain bits are picked out and they come out in nice shininess on top of the flat. So I'll be picking them out and the text against this sort of flat blue background. So that will really make them jump out. And also I'm going to spray the edges with a design as well. So when you get the three books come together, the design will go right away across the books with, I'm sort of imagining a spacecraft, or maybe astronauts, floating in space or something. I haven't quite decided on that. That's another thing I have to think about. So there you go. Hope you found that interesting. Do make sure you're subscribed to the Shoe Renner Drawing channel to keep updated with this project as it's going on. At the moment, I'm planning to launch the Kickstarter project on the 1st of February. That'll be 2023 if you're watching this 10 years time. And that will last a month to the 28th of February. So there's a whole month I've got of sort of marketing and cajoling people to get involved with this trilogy. And I'm inspired. I really want people to kind of want to get behind this. And the Orion capsule came back in the Artemis 1 mission this week, came back to Earth. And I kind of really do feel like something is happening, and space is a reality. Well, space is a reality every day. You get your phone out, it wouldn't work without the satellites. And it's the rockets that are sending them up there. So space is a reality and is part of your life every day, even though you may not know it. And there really will be communities on the moon quite soon. If it's not America does it, China is well into doing it at the moment. So it is going to happen. And I feel the young generation now really is the generation moon. There are kids in school today who will go and live on the moon. That's the way it is. And they might even go on to live in Mars, which might be a whole other trilogy afterwards. So I'm really kind of fired up and inspired to keep going with this project and see it through all the way to the bitter end. Although it's not the bitter end, because I'm enjoying it too. So thanks for watching, and make sure you are subscribed to the Shoe Rainer Drawing channel and keep coming back for lots more drawing videos. Well, I'm not doing many at the moment. Go to Draw Stuff Real Easy if you want drawing videos. I'm still doing them on there every week. In the meantime, keep drawing and watching videos, thinking about space, the universe and everything. And I'll see you next time. You take care now. Bye-bye.